This question is for the feminists out there. If you can, listen to a guy for more than 3 seconds, and if you can prove me wrong, please do so. Now, quickly, if you take the toxic guys out there, the really violent ones, who raised them? Who raised them? Who, men or women, from the time that they were little babies, little bitty babies, the time they were learning to eat and learning to walk, getting food all over the place because they didn't know how to eat yet, from that time all the way up until the time that they're adults, who raised them? Who raised them? Men or women? Remember, when you're attacking the patriarchy, the flip side of the coin is this is actually a matriarchy in terms of who raises kids. And remember, it's who raises kids that helps determine if they're going to turn into a monster or not. Do you have a supportive, nice, wonderful upbringing for those kids? Or do you drop them a bunch and have a really rough upbringing and create monsters along the way? There's two sides to how you create monsters. Nature versus nurture. Nature, we don't have advanced genetic engineering. We can't just flip a bunch of different genes this way and that. Only you can do about nature is just don't date narcissists or predators. Try not to if you can, which is not something that young women do. But let's drop that for a second. But what about nurture? If you don't give love and support from the time you're in early childhood, your chances are going to create a monster. The important part about having kids at the youngest stages, and I have a master's in education, I know what I'm talking about in this, is if a kid gets into this world and from that time they're just saying, yeah, we love you, you're in a great place, you're in a wonderful place, you're exactly where you need to be. On average, you're going to create less monsters that way. If you take kids, put them into an environment in which both of the parents are substance abusers and they're lucky to be fed once a day. Even if you take them out of that environment once they're 3 or 4 or 5 years old and put them in a loving environment, then it's already too late. In 9 times out of 10, you're either going to have already created a monster or you're going to have created an individual who will go on to be remarkably wonderful, but who has had to go through 100 more times the work to become so. And that's not fair. So whether you create the monster or you create a person that's had to do 100 times more work to make themselves into a decent person, that's not fair to the kid. And you are on average creating monsters that way. So the quick, simple example is feminism. When you're attacking the patriarchy and you're not giving a solution to how you can raise kids well, you are creating monsters. So remember this. Every time that you feminists say, oh, you men, you're all horrible, you're all violent, who raised us? And more importantly, are you objectively looking for solutions to do this differently? Are you asking for guys' help to, hey, let's just make sure that this process goes smoothly? Are you working with us or are you just spreading hate? Because guess what? Kids don't care who you blame. Kids need certain things. You provide supportive environment and they have the tools they need to grow up to be responsible, or you don't. And blame who you want, but until you actually answer that question and we together focus on making the upbringing and nurturing and raising of a child less toxic, more supportive, and more focused on things that are going to stop predators from being predators, until we do that, these problems aren't going to be solved. You can point blame all you want, but this is a matriarchal system mostly, even though it's weakening. And yeah, you all do have the responsibility in a matriarchal system for making sure monsters aren't created. The more monsters you see means, hey, stop focusing on things that don't matter and let's focusing on things that do. It's not important what handbag you're wearing. What is important is making sure kids' lives don't get destroyed because you're worried about handbags. And don't tell me you're monetizing thousands of dollars off of getting nice handbags when you're creating hate and toxic environment and ruining kids' lives. That's despicable. Solve problems, don't create them.